God damn, the music's so loud.
There's been a policy position versus like an epistemic statement or like a moral statement.
Yes, I'm not a moron. Thank you.
Okay.
I
well,
love how
then
you word
I don't.
these
Well,
questions. Like,
I don't know
do
why
you understand there's a difference between the color blue and the color purple?
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never talked to a misogynistic
Establishing
man
best
like
connection.
this before.
Please establish faster.
I still want to know if you think that
You
there's
don't want to know
something
anything. I think
happens,
answer a question.
something
I said in the very beginning of
happens
this.
at birth.
Yeah, I said in the very beginning of this that the cutoff would be 20 to 24 weeks.
And now
right?
you're down to 20. So we've actually we're winning. He's down to 20 now.
Well,
wait,
I think
hold
I
on.
was at
20.
So wait, just a question.
Yeah.
She's just accused you of being misogynistic. I mean, do you have a response to that?
I am.
I don't think he has one.
Well, no.
Just say
I
it
mean,
is.
come on, be.
I'm being honest.
You're not a
I am.
misogynist, Destiny.
I hate women. The more time I spend around them, the more contemptuous I feel about them.
Well, I mean,
Every
you're
avenue of life.
trolling, but
I've watched so many Just Pearly Things videos. I just
can we
can't
go
even.
back to the consciousness stuff with
Sure.
the,
Well,
with
can
the
I even have?
toddler
Apparently, my
versus
position doesn't even exist right now. So let me restate for.
No,
I tried to.
your position's good now. We know where you're at least at. You're at 20 weeks. We've got you moved from 24 to 20 weeks,
Yeah,
right?
so the question of policy is separate from the factual question of when does a conscious experience happen, right? What I stated initially was, it seems like there's a conscious experience that starts at around 20 to 24 weeks.
Can
If
you
that's
name the
case,
biologist?
I Google it.
That's what I told you. I actually researched this for several hours today on NIH's PubMed website, and I actually found that there were choice scientists who are saying children feel pain
shit
at
would
12
just
and a
go
half weeks.
faster.
Or they don't
not
know.
consciousness.
Or they don't
Siblings
know.
can interact with each other at 14 weeks. So just using that data from the NIH's own website would tell you that now your 20-week limit on abortions, which is wrong and probably should be moved
Okay,
down
so
to
I
12
Googled
to
this,
14.
and the first thing that came up from scientificamerican.com, I'm not sure what research that is, consciousness requires a sophisticated network of highly interconnected components, nerve cells, its physical substrate, the thalamocortical complex that provides consciousness with its highly elaborate content, begins to be in place between the 24th and 28th week of gestation. Now, I Googled that, was the first thing that came up, so it's crazy to me that you read all these studies. But however, I will finish, 24th to 28th, I've also seen stuff that says 20th to 24th week. So because I don't want to murder baby, to be safe, I would probably say I would go with the earlier number because I generally don't want to kill children most of the time. So I would say that the policy position should probably say that on the 20th week, that should probably be the cutoff where we start treating it as a child, and then you give it all the same protections and rights that you would a third trimester of pregnancy or a born child. So that's about what it said. No position has changed. I haven't moved at all. At the very beginning of this debate, I said 20 to 24 weeks is about. I haven't even clarified. That was the policy position would probably just stop at 20 weeks.
I have a question for Destiny. Do you believe in human rights?
What do you mean by that?
Do you believe in universal, fundamental human rights that all human beings share?
Yes, I do believe there are some universal rights people should have.
Good.
Do they
Does that
objectively
include the
exist?
right to life? Does that include the right to not be killed?
Generally speaking, I would say so. Yeah.
Generally speaking, or yes?
That's a very difficult question. If two countries are at
Is
war
it
with
a
each other, does
difficult
somebody have a right to
Very
kill an enemy
scary that
combatant?
You can't answer
That's
this
a-
question.
that-
Does somebody have a right to kill an enemy combatant in a war?
Yes. In a war,
asking. Okay, yeah,
in
that's
a
what
war,
I'm
there's
saying.
something called there can be
Oh,
something called
that's
just
cool.
war theory. There's different
Sure.
theories for what makes a war just or unjust.
Okay.
And yes, you can be tried for war
Bro, what are you
crimes
doing?
for unjustly
I'm just
killing
trying to make-
a civilian.
Okay, I'm just trying to make
Bro.
you
Because
understand.
they
When
have a
you,
right to life
Sure.
as a human being.
I'm just trying to make you understand that when you ask me a question of does everybody have a fundamental right to life, depending on what you're asking, that could be a very, very, very
I'll
difficult
say it
question.
again and let me know if this is clear. Do you as a human being
Okay.
have a right to not be killed?
I would say generally
Me?
Without due process. How
I
about
got
we
him.
add that
Generally
on?
speaking,
Without
if
due
we
Hell
have any sort
yeah,
of restriction
dog.
of government, my
Swear.
imagination would be that a fundamental right would be a right to not be killed. Yes, I would agree with it. In any given
And in
country.
the United States, under the
Yes.
U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment says that we have a right to equal protection under the law, and no state
Come on.
has a right to deprive the life of anyone without
Nice.
due process.
I
You've probably
agree.
heard this before. Okay, so do you think that there is any due process for the human life? Right now, there is a due
What the
process for the
fuck?
human life before your consciousness.
Wee.
Well, I
arbitrary
would
land.
say that person isn't protected by the Constitution because they're not a person yet.
Okay, and you're defining
Bro,
personhood
how
based
long is that
on
fall?
20 to
How
24
big is that
Having a
cliff?
conscience.
Goddamn.
Okay, yes.
So let's talk about that for a minute. If I'm under anesthetic and I'm unconscious, and someone comes up to me and says, "Can I kill you?" and I'm unconscious, I can't say, "Don't kill me." Can they kill me?
No,
Tell me why.
because you have the capacity to deploy a conscious
Just like the
experience.
fetus.
Just
No, the fetus can't.
The fetus.
Destiny, if you don't kill that fetus, the fetus with a matter of time, because I'm under anesthetic, in a matter of time, I will come out from
shit.
under anesthetic and I will have my consciousness. For the fetus, if you don't kill kill that fetus under a matter of time, the natural human development. You were once a tiny child in the womb, maybe 18 weeks before the consciousness that some biologists playing for.
Half of me was an
And
egg,
if
yes.
no one killed you, then you would have your consciousness, just like I coming out of an anesthetic would have my consciousness.
Do
So
you
why
think
is it
that-
why so your position sounds like age discrimination because you're saying that because the child is not doesn't have their consciousness yet, just like under anesthetic, I don't have my consciousness regained
Do you think
yet.
there are any 2-year-old
then-
human? Do you think there are any 200-year-old?
then you're
do you
saying
think
that
there are
it's
any?
okay to kill them.
Do you think there are any 200-year-old humans that deserve like to be protected by all the human rights that we have fundamentally?
Bro,
Then,
fucking.
yeah,
That'd be
they-
pretty awesome.
What about right now?
Oh,
Are
you know I was
actually
even there.
alive?
Like what?
What do you mean am I ageist? If there was a 200-year-old, I'd say yes. If they're alive, that would be amazing.
Okay,
I'd
and
say
if there
no
was a
one has the right to
1-week-old
kill you.
having a conscious experience, I would say it as well. I'm
But
not
if
being ageist.
the 200-year-old is asleep and unconscious, I still don't have the right to kill them, Destiny.
Because if they're asleep, you can wake up.
Your line of consciousness.
Why?
your
Why?
reason
Why?
for
What are you
being
doing?
conscious
What are you doing?
is
Oh my
not
God.
valid.
You just
Fuck
stated
you.
the fundamental flaw of your entire position because you keep saying
I understand.
if they wake
I'm
up,
just gonna talk now, okay? The
if
way
they
that this
wake up.
conversation works is because you two have organizations, because you two are bought in. You can never
Okay, you
even
can't keep
remotely
going to
consider.
that.
Wait, I have to because I haven't gotten the
Let him
ability to
finish.
even
Here comes
respond
the
to a point.
misogynist. Come on.
It's not misogynist, okay? Now I'm in my demon racial.
Did a bunch of
because you're
men
both white
start our
people, so now I'm like
organization
hitting you because
as
you're
well?
white, okay?
But you can't just throw that zinger in there like, oh, you're only
I
pro-life
have
you
to because
lead
the
pro-life
style of argumentation
organizations.
that you're both engaging
Come
in
on.
is like a gish
Is
gallop of 50
scientific.
million questions. Nothing is scientific about this conversation. It's 50 million questions without me being able to respond to or answer anything.
Well,
You
let's
can't
have a
even make it
scientific.
hypotheticals.
What is
when-
not
I've got a
scientific
question.
about the argument?
I've got a
That-
question.
This is a question of
got a
moral philosophy.
question.
It's not a scientific
I got a
argument.
question. Got a question here.
None of my
hold on,
questions have even been
hold on.
answered yet. Yeah, go ahead.
So
You can go back to your hypothetical, but if
when
you don't,
Just
if
answer
you
it.
don't answer my clarifying
so
questions about
Lila,
your
I have a
hypothetical,
question
then
for you,
we're
Lila.
not going to get very far.
I got a question for you, Lila.
Yeah.
For everybody here at the table. Wow, it's very heated. Okay. When does life begin?
At the moment of conception, when
The moment of
sperm
fertilization.
and egg unite, when a unique, whole, living human being that never existed before and will never exist again comes into existence with a unique genetic code. And
Wait, so
96%,
are twins not human?
excuse me,
Hold on, just
No, they are.
96% of biologists in University of Chicago study, majority of whom were pro-choice and liberal, confirm that fact that there is no other point at your development can you say you became you than at the moment of conception when your DNA, your genetic code came into existence. That is a biological fact. And I'm sorry it's inconvenient to raise that, but
Well-
that is the fact.
And to clarify, I would agree with you, Destiny. If human life began at consciousness, I would say, anything before that human life beginning at consciousness, I would say it doesn't matter. It's not a human life yet. But what's inconvenient for you is that human life doesn't begin at consciousness. Human life and
First
humans.
of all, none of this is inconvenient for me.
humans can
I'm not
be
a woman.
and
At the end of the day, I'm not going to have a kid, so it's not
Well, you-
inconvenient for me
don't
at
you
all.
have a
Okay?
Wait, so
You have a
Destiny,
child.
when
I
does
didn't give birth to him.
But he's your
when does
you're
life
I'm just
the
saying, you're
father
saying
of
it's
the child.
inconvenient to me, where it's like I'm not. It's not
Well,
an
meaning
inconvenience to
because
me to
I think
recognize.
you're representing the pro-abortion position here, and
Surely
you're
you don't
saying
believe
that
in no
consciousness
uterus,
is
no
the line
opinion.
that
Sure, but I'm
decides
just saying that
whether innocent
you
people
keep
live
saying
or
like
die.
it's inconvenient. None of these facts are inconvenient. I'm
Well,
totally
they are
willing to
because
address.
they dispute your made up definition of when personhood begins.
There is no the definition of when personhood begins is literally the subject of our debate. There's not a scientific answer to that question.
What I said
Unless
at
you
the
believe in
very
human
beginning
rights.
is
No,
when
that's
you
human
when you
rights are not
separ-
science.
Excuse me.
That's-
If
Human
you
rights-
separate when human beings
Is that,
come into
is that mechanical
existence,
engineering? When do you learn human
excuse
rights?
me.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, if you separate when human beings come into existence
Okay.
and personhood, and you make it two different lines,
Mm-hmm.
it's always bad. Bad things have always happened throughout human history when we tried to separate human beings from personhood.
I missed
it's
it.
always a slippery slope, and bad things always happen, is what we're saying. So
Destiny,
The reason one more comment. The reason
Rip bozo.
The reason science is very important.
That noise is really annoying.
Is because and the question of human rights is because human rights are about humans that have rights that are universal. So all humans. If you're a member of the human family, you have these rights. And I think earlier you did, kind of
Keep saying
kind
that,
of
but we
timidly
don't. No,
agree.
no, no, no.
kind
You
of
have
agree
more
with- let me
qualifiers.
finish just a
Oh,
tangent.
I'm so sorry.
You did kind of. It's all right. You did kind of agree. I think you agreed that we have the right as humans to not be killed, right?
No.
Ha ha.
There has to be
don't
more
believe in human rights,
qualifications.
but I think
There needs to be more qualifications. It's not just because we agree that corpses, for instance, don't get
Well,
protected.
Come on, that's an
So I
easy
think
kill. What the fuck am I
Destiny-
doing?
I think Destiny. I
Okay,
think your
well.
position is not human
enemy
rights.
is nearing
It's
total control.
conscious rights. That you have to be a conscious. You have to have consciousness, and not just have consciousness. You have it taken away from you and come back
Come
to it,
on, that was
is
an easy
okay.
kill.
But
What are
if
you
the child hasn't
doing?
developed yet, then that's okay. That's your line.
And Destiny,
that
do you
slippery
want to answer
slope.
the question? Just when does life begin?
When does life begin? Or when
When does human life begin, Destiny?
Whatever your sense of the question.
No!
personhood thing that I
Why'd I
think-
stop
No, let's
shooting?
talk about
Oh,
science for a second. When does human life begin? I answer the question, you answer it.
If you're talking about like when does a unique genetic code happen, it's
Yeah.
right at the union. It's right at the moment of conception.
When two parts become a whole.
Power weapon
Finally,
incoming.
we agree on something.
That's
when
a
human life
that's a
comes into
hold on.
existence.
Yeah, that's called a scientific fact.
That's
Wonderful.
what we've been saying.
I
until
understand.
heard
Let me catch you
Well,
up
there
to
are
the
a lot of pro-abortion
conversation.
people who don't
Sure,
agree with
I
that.
understand. Let me catch you up to the conversation. We're not having a scientific discussion on when genomes were formed. We're having a moral philosophy discussion on when does something
He dead?
transition to being a person.
Correct.
Now
and
he
our
did.
position is simple, and what Kirsten was saying earlier is that throughout human history, there have been many times when groups of humans, when groups of humans were considered non-persons, right?
know what this
you're certainly,
Am I
well,
gonna
you're
get that out?
certainly, you're certainly
Oof.
familiar with this, Destiny, and I know Kristen
gonna
is.
go
but
back to this
for
question.
example, under the Rwandan genocide or with slavery in our
Yeah,
country,
I understand.
the
That's-
Holocaust,
that's the
there,
next step.
there are groups of people who were seen as
It was Roe v.
humans.
Wade, KCB.
Oh, the
Planned Parenthood, and I think it was
fucking vehicle
apartheid.
got my
Just to
way.
finish, there
No,
were
actually, I think
human-
Roe versus Wade came from that.
there were
I think,
human
oh,
beings.
might have been.
There
Because they were
human-
inspired by the Nazis, right?
Just to clarify, there are human beings that were seen as non-persons, and that
Correct.
opened the door to
Come on.
huge injustices.
Okay.
And similarly
I'm
today,
so sick
we
of,
see humans
death
in the
cooldowns
womb
of
at this
games. What is
arbitrary
this
line,
man
and you're
doing?
one among many. I mean, other people say,
The
well,
enemy is capturing a zone.
right before birth is when they
Then
become
who?
human, or viability is when they become human,
Haven't
or
made
heartbeat
either
is
of
when they
those
become
Oh,
arguments.
human.
he-
There's
okay,
all of
well,
there's a
good
lot of
for him.
different
I
variations
think
because
those are all really bad arguments.
I agree, and I think
Might be.
consciousness is a terrible argument too. Because
Good
you
for
can't-
us.
Because you can't assign
That's your opinion.
the development of
Obviously,
a human.
that's why I'm representing
And your
it.
opinion's wrong.
And back to the toddler and the adolescent, because you pulled you
Oh,
had a
shit.
clever move there, Destiny. You were saying, well,
Team came in
an
clutch.
adolescent
Hell
has
yeah.
rights, like signing a contract that a toddler doesn't have. So therefore, I think your next conclusion of that was, if you're preborn in the womb of consciousness,
I had a guy to my right and a
well,
guy in
okay.
front of me.
I mean, feel free
Nice.
to but it was an interesting position because what I was trying to get to in that conversation before I got a little bit derailed there is, do you think that
Come on, bro.
your age
I'm better
or
than
your
this. Come on.
development as a human means
Come on, bro, I'm better
you're
than this.
less
Fuck.
entitled to equal protection under law for basic human rights, including the right to not be killed?
Wish the quality of my
If
stream
that
wasn't
development,
shit.
when you say including the rights to not be
Ah, well.
killed,
That fundamental right to life. Let's just talk
your
about only that right.
your
Only that
intuition
right.
pumping. So
Yeah, just I don't know about intuition pumping. Let's just isolate it and just say just the right to not be killed, the right to not be the victim of a homicide.
I don't know. I'm not sure. It depends on what that's we're talking about. So here's a question, for instance. A lot of women have miscarriages, like without even knowing in the first
True. That's
few
true. I've
weeks of
had
getting
one.
pregnant. Do you think that those embryos should be rushed to the hospital?
Well, if the embryo is dead, no. I mean,
Okay,
I
but
think
do you think that like any woman, do you think we should start locking every single woman that has sex into some sort of facility
Oh,
to check
no.
for early
What the fuck is
miscarriages?
the team doing? Come on, guys. Oh,
Wouldn't that be the equivalent of a woman leaving a child starving to death on the floor?
No, absolutely not. How dare you?
Okay, hold on, can you answer
First
the
of
question?
all,
How
no,
dare
How
Fuck.
dare you?
Because what you're talking about right now is essentially the real genocide of children, and all the children being miscarried right now in the first few weeks of
a
development. That's horrible.
miscarriage
Yeah.
to not feeding my child.
Why? It should be the same thing.
No, it's not.
Why is it not?
Well, you
It's
obviously
not because
Oh my gosh.
it's not because
Well, hold on, you're telling
Every
me,
woman
hold
in
on,
America
if you want to
who has
extend
just
human
had a
protections
mis- has had a
all the
miscarriage
way
is
to
very
the
angry.
very
Hold on,
beginning,
one
the
at a
very
time,
moment
one
of
at a time,
conception,
please.
if you want to go all the way to the moment of conception, then that means that a woman
Oh,
who just
you
whatever kind of
motherfucker.
miscarries in the first
Dude,
second,
where's
third,
my
doesn't feel
team?
good.
What
That
the
is same as like,
fuck?
oops, somebody dropped their child down the stairs and they died.
no,
That
it's
is
not the same.
absolutely not the same.
I'm
Do
the
you
only one
understand
out
science
here,
and what
dude.
happens in a miscarriage?
It's like
And
I'm the
what
only one
happens
putting in
a
work.
miscarriage?
Unattended. That's why I said we should lock them up after they have sex.
I don't think your argument doesn't make any sense.
My argument makes perfect sense.
No,
If
it
you
actually
truly
lock a
believe,
woman up.
It's
It's
actually very
restate my
heinous.
It might be
argument.
more
I'll
likely
restate my
than
I
argument.
asked again, where's my fucking
I know
team?
it
Which is
hurts.
why I don't think
Obviously
Come on
devil's
now.
second
Come on,
is
fat.
law.
Come on, fat. Come on. Come on, big.
No, you can't right now. If you believe that at the moment of conception you've created a unique human being, then that means that right now you should be in tears because at every moment women that are engaged, in fact,
Yes.
you could probably make the argument that sex without the intention of immediately going to a hospital is probably immoral because you're engaging in some activity that might result in the death of a child
think
in
so.
2 or
I don't
3 or
think-
4
I don't
weeks
think-
because you don't know if you're going to have a
You don't
miscarriage.
think women
Every
can
single
just
Ooh,
time,
ooh.
every
being?
single time a woman has sex, she's
Guys,
telling
one
to
at
be
a
rushed to
time,
the
please,
hospital
please, one
immediately
at a time.
after just
One at a
to
time,
make sure
one at a time,
that whatever
please.
fetus might be there is absolutely
No, I don't
Destiny,
think
let me add your question.
that. Now that is misogyny because what you're saying is women cannot gestate human beings in the room
Nice.
and be
Ain't no one
productive
going on my
citizens
tank,
of
okay.
our society.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with.
So,
Okay,
Destiny,
well,
I don't
exactly what.
Hold on,
Let's
Can't do anything
Okay, I don't
against
know. I
that
think your
unless I had
question
rocket
might
launchers, but I don't know
betray
where one
passive
is
ignorance
because
about
I'm a noob.
Because if a woman gets
Oh,
pregnant,
come on.
rushing her to the
That was some
hospital
good cover,
is
and
not
then
going
the
to
game
magically
decides to
prevent
just
a
take it
miscarriage
away.
that she may
What
or
the
may not
fuck?
have. Miscarriages happen for a lot of different reasons. And I would argue, especially
I'm a dead
for
boy.
imprisonment
I'm
as an
dead. I'm
example,
out.
imprisonment
I'm
for a woman
gone.
who's pregnant with time
I'm
opposed to
gone.
away, that
I
additional
survived.
stress
How
could
the
add to
fuck?
the miscarriage. So if you grabbed a woman after she had sex and might be pregnant and dragged her off to a hospital, that might actually induce stress in her. And
Yeah, but there's
create a
also
miscarriage.
potentially
So I'm
things.
not
There's
sure
behaviors a woman
where
could
you're
engage in
going
that
with
would increase the risk of
That's what
miscarriage,
was
especially if she doesn't
behind
know
me.
she's pregnant, right? Maybe a woman drinks.
Say that one more time.
There might
Stephanie.
be behaviors that a woman could engage in if she
Which
is
is
pregnant
why-
that would increase the
which
risk
is
of
why-
pregnant.
which is
However,
why-
that means that
Destiny.
you could have sex with a
Destiny.
condom and with birth control, and you might actually get pregnant. So if a woman is
right.
having
Yeah.
sex and she starts drinking or whatever, she's
That's
be
right.
murdering a child right then and there.
Destiny, let me answer that. That's why we have recommendations
I will survive.
from the FDA that
I will
women
survive.
should drink alcohol.
No,
That's
even know
why.
if you're pregnant
Maybe
yet, though.
that's
That's the whole-
that.
that's-
Dude, that's such an easy kill. I dropped the bag so hard.
Actions, though,
That's
right?
how- what is- It
So-
doesn't get much more direct than doing
No,
things to
if
your
a
body
woman
that
is
harms your
pregnant
child.
and does not know she's pregnant, say she just conceived and
Uh-huh.
she
I got
goes
7
and
kills.
celebrates
Let's
her
go.
20th
I don't know
birthday
how many deaths
at
I
a bar,
got.
21st birthday at a bar, and she drinks
I
a
need to
whole
move my
bunch,
camera so
and
y'all
she
can see my
miscarries. No one would say
my score.
you murdered your child.
But-
No one would say
Did.
that. That's not that was not the intent.
It doesn't matter what the
There's
intent is.
a
You
whole
think the kid cares
difference
what the intent
between
is?
the
You've murdered a
intent.
child.
Abortion. What is abortion? Abortion is the direct intention.
Ooh, I don't like
killing
this
of
guy.
an innocent
From the
child.
perspective of the fetus, do you think it cares if
That
it
is
was
a
accident or intentional? That it was.
action. We're arguing about the morality of abortion, which you've informed me like 5 times, but you don't want to talk about science.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that if you think that from
Abortion
the moment
is
of
a direct-
conception,
I will say, I'll give you this, Destiny. If you're having sex, and this actually goes to a related conversation to the abortion conversation that's very important. I think is sexual
I have a
ethics.
question actually.
And I think your
after
question
Laura
kind of gets
goes.
into the sexual ethics world, which I think is important. So we could go there. 'cause
Sure.
If you're
I
having
do have
am I
heterosexual
allowed to?
sex.
Am I allowed to ask any of my questions because none of them got answered?
Well, I would
Do you want to
argue.
reiterate them?
Sure, I have like 3 really basic
Can I
ones.
answer his little hypothetical really quick? Okay.
Sure.
About the mass genocide of.
Well, no,
accidental
it was
babies.
more about, if you're having sex, should you be heavily drinking afterwards? I think is where you're going with that. And I would say, no, you shouldn't actually. I don't think, and this is sort of our society's
I didn't even
problem
get an
today,
assist.
post-sexual
Come on
revolution,
now.
is we have separated sex from procreation and from relationship. And because of that, we have the abortion rate. Sometimes children kill every day by abortion. Because of that, we have mass unhappiness. We have breakdown among
3%
male-female
hovers.
relationships. People actually are having less
Come on,
sex
man,
in
just
many
let
ways
us
and
have
more
this.
pornography use is spiking, and it's all because we've forgotten
Fuck
what
out
sex
of
is
here. Get
designed
out of
for, which
here.
is intimacy and fun.
Fuck.
So I would be against a culture, and I am against acts where people are just being
Damn.
promiscuous, having sex.
Aw,
not
Literally
Tank,
none of that has
dude,
anything to do with what I said,
the
because
Tank had
everything
such
that I
a good
described happened could
opportunity to
literally
get
happen
a
within
couple
marriage where a
kills,
woman
man.
Gets
Well-
pregnant, doesn't realize
well-
it has
I mean, he
hold on,
might
hold
be,
on.
Well,
but
then I'll answer
Let
to that
us-
too.
he had
Actually,
such a
let me
good
answer that too, 'cause
opportunity to
I'm
help
I'm
us,
just saying that
but
nothing what I
whatever.
gave had anything to do with the
Okay,
sex
well
culture or anything else, yeah.
then I thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
I can relate to your question. I'm married. We hope to have another baby, and yes.
Oh, God.
When I know if I might be fertile, I might be getting pregnant soon. Yeah, I'm not going to be drinking
You
gin and
see
tonics
this
because I might be
zone.
getting pregnant, and I want to have my body be as hospitable as possible for that baby. And I think that would be the prudent thing to do. And
Oh,
that's another
shit.
reason, if as a woman and you're having
We weren't
sex,
talking
you might
about
get
what was
pregnant
prudent or
to
not,
be.
but we were like-
Oh,
Right.
what?
Well, I think it would be morally irresponsible, yes, to be getting drunk when you may be getting pregnant, yes.
On the same
Because
level as like
creating-
murdering a child, right?
Creating a new human being is a logical outcome.
Maybe no
of
flexing
heterosexual
right now. I
relationships. And so
worked
that's
out
all
a
I
lot
was saying,
today,
is that
and
if
that
you're
fucking
engaging
hurt
in
like hell.
heterosexual
Holy shit.
You have to be aware that one of the very biological outcomes of that behavior. of
Alright,
the
I
choice
know
you
there's a
make
sniper,
is
and I know he's
creating
camping,
a new
so
life.
I don't know what the
therefore
fuck
you
I'm gonna
have
do.
consented to the fact that a unique quality of life may come into existence by engaging in that act knowingly.
Okay.
Bro's dead.
I said it very slow, very clear.
Nice.
Do you agree that is puberty a real
I dropped the bag, my bad team. I could have maybe stopped them a bit, but
It's a range.
wasn't paying
Hold on.
attention.
I know where you're going. Can I just make this point
Fuck you,
here?
double team.
very
Let's
much
go.
different.
There's
Or
hold on. Let me
double
there's
kill.
an absolutely sure.
Lila, like,
I hope my audio is not coming out like all muffled and
Yeah, wow.
shit.
Jesus.
So, I'm
So
just gonna
rude.
like.
You're being misogynistic.
I mean, I think it's been pretty.
I've been
No,
trying to be.
I think they're both
Sorry,
misogynistic.
we need,
Okay.
we need hand signals. So, no, I understand where the question was. You brought this up earlier about puberty. Yes, absolutely.
chilling,
Puberty's a real
I'm
thing,
being
and it's
chilling.
Pre-teens right now.
Okay.
I'm reminded every day that
shit.
puberty is
Well,
real.
I'm still being chilling.
Absolutely.
What
Onsets
up?
at different ages based on the
What up?
environment, based on a child's experiences or stress that the child may be going through, or the genetic conditions that a child may have. But that's not an equivalent for saying, well,
Go away. Go away.
we don't know when
Go away.
human life begins, when we know it actually begins, and we've already proven as a scientific fact begins at the moment of conception.
Got him.
Therefore,
Easy.
we can kill a human being.
All I'm trying to
Damn it.
illustrate to you is that
Can
Dude,
I
that shotgun got
Yes,
me.
Lila, go ahead.
I did what
and
I
then we'll
did
have you
too.
come in. We'll have you come in. Go ahead, Lila. Go ahead.
So I would just say, yes, there is a sliding time frame from when someone might undergo puberty. But if you are basing a decision about whether or not you can kill an innocent prepubescent or pubescent child, then I would say
All those
the
armors
standard
look
of
like
puberty
shit.
shouldn't matter. Similarly to your standard, your unjust standard of consciousness to demand that a baby that's not fully developed yet has to be developed in order to be protected. And I think that's age discrimination.
Gotcha. Okay. So all I'm trying to point out is
Do you agree you are age discriminatory, by the way? Do you agree? 'Cause
I
you
am
said
age.
that.
Do you think are you age discriminatory?
So you're age discriminatory about when human beings should have
I'm
the
age
right to
discriminatory
live.
about a lot of different things.
So you believe that you are age discriminatory about
I'm
when human beings.
developmentally discriminatory.
Typically,
Developmentally.
developmental discrimination
At least
is
I went
for
positive.
the protection of the less developed person. It's
Or it
not
could
for
be
the
for the
manipulation.
protection of a
Four
mother that
captures,
doesn't want to have a
nice.
pregnancy
It's
too.
not
There
for
is
the,
another
it's
person
not
in the
for
equation
the
here, you know.
manipulation and the
There
harm
absolutely is
of
not.
the less
Manipulation or
developed
harm
I
of a
killed
mother
him.
who's being
Nice.
forced to be a breeding factory for a child.
Do you know what an
Actually,
abortion
I can
is?
morally loathe
Wait,
this just the other way if you want. If you want to play that game, I can do that.
Do
all
you
day.
know
I
what
think your
happens
argument
when-
actually isn't consciousness. I think you are making a bodily autonomy argument.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. That's the
You
dumbest argument in the
absolutely
world.
are, because you said the mother has.
Dude,
a
I had the
pregnancy.
most
No, the mother-
time
No,
in
I'm
the
just trying to show you
fucking.
that
As a
if you want to
human
morally
being
loathe
Put
things
in
like
work,
murder of a
dude.
child, well, then I'm going to say, well, forcing a
Well,
mom
you
to be a
didn't agree
breeding
with
machine.
me about my analogy about artificial wombs.
What
either.
I
You
didn't
said
agree, I
abortion
rejected
would-
it because I said it was dumb because viability has no impact whatsoever on my feelings on whether or not a fetus is endowed
But
with
I
rights
think
for human life or not.
Kristen is correct in that you are sort of talking out of both sides of your mouth a little
I'm
bit here. because
absolutely
on
not.
the
Right now, I'm
one
struggling to
hand-
talk out of one side of my mouth.
on
I
the,
think you're
well,
getting cut off.
on the one hand, Destiny, you're saying that it shouldn't matter whether or not the mother wants the baby or doesn't want the baby if the baby is conscious. And on the other hand, you're saying actually the mother's desire to have or not have that baby, being forced to birth that baby, actually does matter. So that's a little bit of a contradiction.
So
Yeah,
it's
but
not a
if-
contradiction at all. Whether or not somebody wants to have a child or not is not the same as when does the child get moral protections. Those are two fundamentally separate questions.
You're saying you
However,
should not be.
I might,
you
I
are saying
might
a
want,
woman
I
should not
might
be
want.
forced to give birth.
I
You are
might
using
want
that language.
No, well, because you're using
Yes.
the language of like killing a child.
No, you're ending the life of an innocent human
Yeah,
being
that's,
that is
thank
a
you
child.
for illustrating my point. Yes, yes.
You're
Well, if
So
it's
if you're
not-
gonna
Why are you
morally
so
Hold on,
offended?
hold on.
Why are you so
Hold on,
offended by the word
I'm
child?
not,
Let's use the word
I'm not
right,
offended
Destiny.
because
It's
when you
triggering
say
you,
child, it's not
Destiny.
that it's triggering me.
It's absolutely triggering
It's
you because
called-
you've said it like 6 times.
because you're begging the
Are
question.
you triggered,
Okay.
Destiny? Confirm or deny?
I
Are
am
you
triggered.
triggered?
Okay.
Okay.
So hold
I
on,
actually,
hold on.
you know what?
Yeah,
I
the
have.
problem is that
Hit.
right now the point of our debate, it's kind of like going to a self-defense trial and having the people that you killed being called victims.
Well, hold on,
right?
hold on. You're the one who's advocating for the positive right to kill a child in the womb. That,
Okay.
you're the one advocating for that.
Okay.
We're advocating to say you can't kill a child. So that's it's.
I'm just
it's
trying to explain why calling it a child is
But
begging
why
the
does that?
question.
But
Hold
why
on,
does
I-
that bother you?
I'd actually
why does
like
that
to
bother
It bothers
understand-
me because the subject of the debate is whether or not it is a child. So if you call it a child, you're already presupposing the
no,
most
but
difficult
not-
part of the conversation,
It's
which
bother-
is begging
it's
the
bothering
question.
me.
But I think, but that's a contradiction too, Destiny, because
not a
it
contradiction.
is because you just said because you said
always
that
thought you had a
you become a
regal air about
person
Now, to
at
prove
consciousness. This arbitrary line
I
that you've drawn
don't
is
get
not
it.
even.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
not
get
even
it.
clear.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And
No,
you're
it's
saying,
very clear.
but you never
Who
were
has
upset.
a name?
What about
you never
Trollo?
talked about when childhood begins. So let's actually talk about that.
When is a
Does
what?
childhood begin at a different time than when first
D-Day,
childhood
D-Day.
begins?
Some childhood begins when you see your first Sesame Street episode. I don't know. What does childhood mean?
Okay, when does a child become a child? When is it
Is it
okay
at
to
birth?
call a preborn life a child?
What you doing,
I
fam?
don't know. That's a semantic question. I'm not really.
So
What
why
you
are
doing,
upset
blood?
about us using the word if you don't really
Because
have an
we're not
opinion
just
on it?
having semantic disagreements. We're having like very discrete disagreements on
So
morality
where
over
do you
when somebody
disagree
should be.
then?
Ooh,
When do you
My
feel the
disagreement
life
is
of
I
a
don't
child?
think that it becomes a person at
But
conception
you
that's
just
endowed
said you
with
don't
human
like us
rights.
using the word
Please let-
child. When
Ah,
does
son of
life
a
become
bitch.
Now you're just asking about childhood, and now you're asking child. The reason
I'm
why we're
asking
arguing over
when
the.
you start having a childhood, when you start becoming a child.
You know,
When
I
is
can
that?
totally
yeah,
answer the
I
question,
bet.
okay?
Please tell me.
Okay. We're having
Dude,
a conversation
this
right now
fucking-
about
I-
when something is endowed with like moral
How
consideration.
long does
And I don't
the
need a que-
invisibility
That's
even last? It fucking pisses me off.
I asked you if I could finish. You
That
said I
shit's
could. Now you
bullshit.
cut me off.
Let's
Like,
let
You
fuck.
lied to me.
finish
Okay?
the.
Let me finish the question.
Go for it.
I
Don't
bet
lie.
he still has it. I bet if I go down there
Alright,
here,
now-
I'm gonna fucking die instantly. No? Okay.
The subject of the debate is when does a fetus become a person? Okay, child is another word for person. So when you say,
Okay, that's
Ooh,
what I'm saying.
ooh,
Hold on.
missed
When you
twice,
say
suck.
Please let
you think
Destiny
it's
finish.
okay to kill a child, obviously the answer is no. I don't think it's okay to kill a child. But that's not the
What do you
conversation
call
we're
it?
having. The
Wait.
conversation we're
I
having
hate
is
this
just
map
when
so
is
much.
something considered a child. So that's why I'm obviously going to push and you say, you're saying we should kill children
What do you
at
call
2
it?
weeks old. I don't know, a fetus, whatever you want to call it.
But do you know what the Latin word fetus means?
I don't care, I'm not Latin.
Hill
It means
control.
young one. It's another word for
Your
child.
team
That's great.
about
There are
to
young ones that are
score.
puppies.
Power
That
rifles
doesn't
en route.
It's a human
have any
child,
bearing
so-
on
Oh,
me.
that's
You're not
actually-
going to
that's a very
etymologically like
interesting
win the
question
debate
for
against
you.
me.
So just
Do you
to
think there are
clarify,
human consciousness at some point?
Not human
just to
consciousness,
clarify,
no.
we're only allowed to call a human life a child at Destiny's arbitrary line of consciousness. Is
What
that
I'm
correct?
saying is that
Because you're very offended when we use this term, so I'm trying to understand when it is in your book correct to
Enemy
use
if
it.
anybody is
took the
triggered in this
hill.
room, it is not me. Okay.
That's good.
So it's funny that you keep using the offended line. I'm used
Okay,
to the you mad
you
bros.
disagree strongly.
No, I don't disagree. You're just like
don't disagree.
presupposing the argument. That's the
It's
issue.
pissing you off when we use the word child. Is what we're saying.
Confirm or deny? Are you
Confirm or
pissed
deny?
off, Destiny?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You know
He
what?
doesn't
I
like it.
actually.
Can I? Wait, no, hold on.
Whoa,
It's the same thing as you guys because I know you guys, and I guess maybe this is just like in your brain, it's how you approach these conversations. But I know you guys get frustrated when people argue with you, and you're like, you just want to take rights away from the mom. Oh, so you're trying to make moms
Well, I
slaves?
would-
Oh, you're turning moms
I
into
would-
baby factories?
Yeah.
That would be if I wanted to engage in the same style of conversation you're engaging in. I would just say that over and over again. Why do you
No,
want to make moms baby
I would-
factories?
I
Why
would
do you want to make
ask
moms
them to-
slaves? You know what is really problematic is when we take away rights from certain groups of people and we force them to do things with their bodies that they don't want to. A lot of eugenics was
So-
done that way. A lot of the Nazi concentration camps were that way.
Power
In Japan,
weapons
Unit
now
343 did a lot of weird things like that, or whatever the fuck,
That's
right?
up to the
So
cases
if
of
you're gonna
sex,
if you're gonna make the
no
argument that like, oh
engagement
well,
behavior.
viewing people as people
Your
sometimes are
team
not as really
about to
problematic, then I'll say,
score.
okay, well, restricting rights from people, especially women, has also been really problematic
Yeah.
historically.
So-
Welcome to women's suffrage. Welcome to women being able to own property. Welcome to women having access to birth control.
Thank you
Welcome
for
to women
explaining
being able to
women's
do-
rights to
No
us.
problem. I'll do it. So you guys have the problem with me understanding. So yeah. So, but I'm saying I'm not
I feel,
doing that because
I feel like that's
If
a battle I'm
obviously
not
you
gonna
guys
win,
thought that a
so
fetus
I'm
wasn't
just
a human
gonna.
life, then you would obviously agree with me. And if I agreed that a fetus was a human life, I would obviously agree with you.
So wait. You don't believe
normatively
in
loaded terms.
This
so
is
when
an
you
important
use-
point.
when
Let
you
'em
use
cook,
normatively
bruh.
loaded terms like
Shit.
murder a child or commit homicide, then all you're doing is you're begging.
Shouldn't
the
they be
judge-
getting
Obviously,
ammo? Wait,
nobody
wait.
at this table and nobody in this room
Oh,
believes in
wait,
killing
what?
children or committing
Oh, wait,
homicide
I'm
against children.
fucking
Except
The
that
question
I
is,
have a
These are
when does it
completely
become
different
a child?
weapons.
That's
I
the
have a
question.
question for you
Yeah.
though, because you just said when a fetus
Power
becomes a
rifles
human
en
being.
route.
When does a fetus become a human being? Dustin?
I didn't. I'm
Person
sad.
comes when the conscious experience
Who the
Wait,
fuck
wait.
threw that down?
Biology says moment of conception, like
No.
Biology does
human.
not tell you.
Oh, wait,
Stop,
that's-
excuse
that's
me.
teammates.
Excuse me.
It's
I'm
not
gonna
when
start
human
talking to you
rights-
like I talk to my poor boys. Excuse me.
Can we,
Human
hold on,
life comes
wait,
into
wait. Hold on,
existence at the
Kristen,
moment
Kristen,
it's
Kristen,
inception.
one second, Kristen, one second. If we can, and you know, there's been some comments about this.
Fuck off.
I would like everybody here at the table to have an opportunity to speak. So if we can try to, including Kiki, yes. So if we can,
Bro, what are you doing?
limit the interruptions, let people finish their thought, and then, you know, go on. I'd like
Look at that
Destiny
shit.
to have time to speak. I'd like Lila to have time to speak.
I
Kristen,
can't
you as
sprint
well.
with this.
Go ahead,
That's
Kristen.
stinky.
Fetus.
Oh wait, I didn't know we
When
were
does
in
a
the.
fetus become a human
Aw,
being? Because
oh.
biology
Incoming.
says
We're still in the lead. What's
biologists
up?
confirm 96% confirm that the moment of conception, you became a human being. You became a member of our species. But you kept saying the word, it's not a human being. So when does the child or entity or whatever term you want to use, it doesn't trigger you in the womb, become a human being?
20 to 24 weeks.
So you're actually, wait a minute.
Shit, man.
This is very important because you didn't
Come on.
say this at the beginning of the debate. In the beginning of the debate, you were making a moral argument, but you weren't saying
What's
that
up,
it
fam?
wasn't changing
Oh
your
god,
position.
behind me.
You,
Fuck.
This is what Lila and I were exactly.
I took a
this is
deep
what I
breath
pointed
in
out,
and like my
15
mask
minutes
like
ago,
went in my
that
mouth.
you are
That's
using an
funny.
argument saying that it's consciousness, that consciousness gives that human being these special personhood rights
control.
not to be killed. But I made the argument a while back that you aren't really making that argument
Okay.
because when I presented
Easy.
a couple other
Took the
scenarios
hill.
to you, you wouldn't agree with me. But the argument, what you just said.
What was the
wait,
scenario where I
stop.
didn't agree?
The argument
All right,
you just
fam,
said
let's
was
go.
it wasn't a human being. You just said, for everybody here, that becomes a human being at 20 to 24 weeks. That is
Go to
scientifically
Incoming.
unsound because what we've already proven to you is at the moment of conception, a unique human being comes
Oh,
into
I'm dead.
existence. Do you agree with me?
What
that
is
a
team
human
doing? Come on,
being is
guys.
present
Fuck.
in the mother's womb at the moment of conception?
You guys can do better. Come on, I've seen it.
Code that appears, then we can call that a human being.
See,
But
see,
the
see?
conversation
What's
that we're
up?
having
Look at
right
that.
now
Look at
is
that.
not
Look at
about
that.
what
Beautiful.
the being is. The conversation we're having is when does something
Epic.
get granted rights
Epicness.
or moral
So,
consideration.
so I think you
And I
need to
would
be careful
say
with your terms
if-
then,
Hold
because you
on.
kept saying
You're the
human
one that's
being.
mixing.
Ow. Okay.
I've
Wait.
been
Wait.
pretty clear,
Oh,
and I'll
whoa.
continue
That's
to
a
be
cliff.
clear, because you're trying to ask me yes or no. When does it become a human being? And if you're defining human being as the thing that gets rights, then I'll say 20 to 24 weeks. The thing that I've said over and over again, and if you want, I can write this word down. What I am talking about, and I've used this term before, is
Nearing
person or
victory.
personhood.
And
And I think that a person is not a collection of cells. A person is not some body parts. A person is not something that responds to pain.
I didn't
or
kill him?
to
What?
blood. When we think of
I could have swore I meleeed. What the
persons, we
fuck?
think of people that are having subjective conscious experiences like what we
Easy.
have now.
So I have a
when we
question.
think
What
of when somebody
experiences?
dies, we think of that subjective conscious experience ending. That's why earlier the question that I asked that I will never get an answer to, and I understand why you want to answer it. I asked you if a person is going to be in a coma for the rest of their life, will never wake up, can you kill them? The answer is obviously yes, but the reason why you won't say that that's okay is
No.
because a comatose person possesses every
I will
single
answer the
thing
question
that
for
the
you.
pre-conscious fetus has.
Let me answer the
So if you
question.
can kill that comatose person, you can probably kill the
No,
pre-conscious
you're not
fetus.
killing.
But the problem
I think it's
is
wrong
that
to
you won't
take a
answer that
gun
question
and
because of that,
kill
yeah.
the person in a coma. I think it would be wrong to take sofa clamp and dismember that person
100%.
limb from limb who's in a coma. I think it's wrong to take a needle and insert digoxin into that person's heart who's in a coma and cause a cardiac arrest. All things that happen during abortion, by the way. We would never argue that a person who's in a coma, whether we
Oof, that
know
did
they're brain
stink you that
dead or
game.
they're not brain dead, we don't know because we don't have an actual scenario we're talking about here. But we would never say you actively kill a person who's in a coma. What Lila said, what
I agree
have
with that.
said
I agree.
is
And
you can actually remove care. You can remove the
I've already
breathing
demonstrated
apparatus
that you don't
to
agree with
see
this
if the
argument.
person.
This is not an argument that you agree
No,
with.
you just said we didn't answer the argument in your question, but we did.
Yeah,
well, what
okay.
happened was there was a bit of filibustering where
Sure.
I was
if
trying
you want,
to
we
get
can very
clarification.
clearly
You
get
don't
to
like
the bottom
our
of this, or
answer,
we can ramble
Destiny.
on to irrelevant things. Do you
You
want
just
to get to the
don't.
bottom
You
of
don't
this?
like our answer, so
Okay.
you say we didn't.
So
answer
what
it.
you're doing is you're pointing out a difference. So sometimes in moral philosophy, people want to point the difference between doing and allowing harm, and there might be a fundamental moral difference between doing harm to somebody versus allowing harm to somebody.
It
And you're
depends
trying-
what you mean by
you're-
those actions.
Sure, you're trying to draw some difference here between doing and allowing harm. However, none of us here believe that that matters in this case, right? Because if you look at a child, none of us here would say that that one is morally okay to allow harm versus one is morally okay to do harm. For
Definitely,
instance, if
it-
you had a child that was connected to an insulin tube or a feeding pump because they had issues with digestion or feeding, you wouldn't say that like, okay, actively killing the child is wrong, but if you just disconnected their insulin pump, that would be okay because you're passively killing the child. We would say no, they have a fundamental right to survive and be alive, and you would say the same thing to a person connected to a machine, because if a person was in a coma or not in a coma, let's say they were just unconscious, okay, and we knew they were going to wake up in 2 weeks, or there was a high likelihood of it, we would say it's probably unethical to unattach that person to the machine, even if all they did was sit there and starve to death.
Definitely.
So this weird description that you're trying to, or this weird dichotomy you're trying to make between doing versus allowing harm doesn't apply here when we talk about moral consideration
It
of different
absolutely
kinds of
I
applies
think you're
when it
making.
comes to
I think you're. I think
Don't
there's
say
a
false analogy
there's
again.
I think there's an oversimplification here when you're talking about moral philosophy, because
Yeah.
a lot of it goes into who has the responsibility, what my responsibilities and duties are to you.
That's right.
So if I am a doctor and my responsibility and duty is to my patient, and I have a child who's getting an insulin treatment, yes, it would be homicidal of me to rip the treatment away from the child.
Yes.
If I am a parent and my duty and responsibility as a parent is to provide nourishment for my child, and I rip that nourishment away from my child, then yes, that would be a potentially a homicidal act. It could lead to death, and it certainly would be a case of neglect and perhaps abuse. So similarly, if I as a parent have these responsibilities to my children, then I have to, it would be morally wrong for me to not live out those responsibilities. And every child is dependent on his or her mother. I do not suddenly become a child or a person at consciousness. We don't even have a clear line of when that is. We haven't been able to nail that down.
You still can't tell.
And in addition, consciousness, you can go in and out of consciousness.
Sure. So
And
here's
in
the-
addition, a child
Okay.
before developing consciousness only needs time to
Sure.
develop that
So here's the
consciousness.
wait. This is
So
the most
you're-
important question.
One
The
thing,
most
one thing,
important
one thing,
question.
one thing. No, I'll let you make your point, but after you make your point, allow me to just come in, and I have
Okay.
a couple questions I need
Most
to ask.
important
Go ahead.
question then. When
Well,
you
can
have
you
a
respond to
person,
what I said, though? I'm curious your thoughts on what I just said.
it-
Do you
I don't
disagree
even
with
know
what I
there's
said?
anything to respond to. There's nothing.
Do you agree with it? Disagree?
when you start saying things like you should take care of children, you can't pull away care from children, obviously I agree. But
Okay.
that's all begging the question.
Wait,
all
didn't we
agree on
just
that.
do
The
this
question is,
map?
when
Come
did they become
on.
children?
Wait.
So,
Oh,
it's
is
not-
this team deathmatch?
What do you think
Thank
about the
you.
distinction of I have the potential, I have the capacity for consciousness,
Oh,
I only
whoa.
need time for that to be realized. Similar, I'm under an anesthetic,
Of course
I
someone's
can
got a
have the
sniper.
capacity for
Okay.
consciousness. It's not realized because I'm under anesthetic. In both cases, it's still wrong to kill.
There's a difference.
Energy
You're not
flowing.
developing
Wait a minute.
the
Wait a
consciousness.
Why is
minute.
that
Let me
difference
cook.
matter,
Let me cook, bro.
Destiny?
Because there's a difference between a thing
I
and a
know
thing.
there's a
I
difference,
fell.
but
I
why
didn't
do
mean
you
to.
difference
Let them
matter?
finish. Let them
Oh,
finish.
I am getting triggered. You're right. I'm
Energy
getting triggered.
flowing.
Okay,
I know.
hold on.
We all know Destiny.
By
Okay,
what?
let me.
The arguments
floor
or
is
the
yours.
interruptions?
Because she knows her argument is bad, and that's why she won't let me finish her point.
Incorrect.
It's triggering the fuck out of me. Okay.
Well, let's just let Destiny respond. Go ahead, Destiny. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the
I need to stop dropping the bag.
is if you have a person connected at end of life care, when does it become ethical to disconnect them?
You didn't answer. I'll answer that.
Lila's question.
But why does your difference matter?
Why does what difference matter?
The difference of the child
You're not even gonna let me
who-
finish, but I'll tell you the difference. The difference is there's a difference between a thing and a thing that something
Got
will
it.
become.
Oh,
Those are
God.
fundamentally
Oh, God.
different
Oh, no.
things.
Oh, no.
What's
Please
the
don't.
difference between a fetus that hasn't developed the parts to have consciousness yet versus what's the difference
Excuse
between
me,
me?
the fetus-
I told
Wait.
you she wouldn't let me finish. Versus what's the difference
just
between
let
me
him finish,
who's
let him
currently
finish.
unconscious and will become conscious later after anesthesia. The difference
No.
is you're not developing the capacity to have consciousness. There's a continuation of a prior conscious experience. All the parts are there to create a conscious experience. They're just temporarily
Destiny.
temporarily
That's the fetus,
alleviated. They're
Destiny.
just no, it's not
I
because
wish
the
I
fetus
was
has
it.
never
Let him
been
finish.
conscious and doesn't have the parts to deploy the conscious experience. So there's fundamentally a difference. Was that 2 or 3 interruptions that I said were going to happen, right? There's fundamentally a difference between a thing doesn't even have the capability to have a conscious experience versus somebody else's.
No, 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 no.
That is
Why-
the difference.
Thank you for that.
You're
They were so coordinated.
Why does the continuation
They in a call
of
together?
consciousness
The fuck?
matter?
Continuation matters because the thing I'm
Power
valuing
items have
is
arrived.
the underlying machinery that has the capacity to deploy a
Why?
conscious experience. Why? Because in all the intuition of when we talk about other people and things,
Intuition?
it seems like, well, ultimately that's kind of where morals come from,
Easy.
don't they? Right? And at the end of the day,
Easy.
at the end of the day, the thing that we seem to be valuing in other people seems to be the subjective experience that we're all having with each other.
Okay.
That seems to be the case.
Under your logic, Destiny,
Yes, tell me.
a newborn child whose
Yeah.
consciousness, their memories, they won't even have memories as a newborn. Because
Hold on,
your
slow down.
consciousness as a newborn child and even your consciousness as a 1-year-old is very different than your consciousness as a Destiny, however old you are.
Okay.
Are you less
That's
of
not
a
what I wanted.
human,
That's
less of
not
a
what I
person,
wanted.
excuse me, because that's the word you're using here. Are you less of a person because you have less consciousness?
Yeah, you might be.
Okay, interesting.
Power
That's
But just because you're less of a
acknowledgement.
person doesn't necessarily
So-
mean that you have like not that fundamental
So,
right to be protected as a
If
wife.
you are less of a person,
Just
So
like a person
what's the
who's
point of that
predestined
argument
is less of a
then?
person
Like
who's
what?
like
Okay.
being like endowed with all the rights of society.
Sure,
But they still have the right to life and not be
okay,
murdered.
so let's walk this forward. Then,
Okay.
if you're a 1-year-old and
Slowly.
you're a little bit less of a person than a 20-year-old, say,
Dude, my
should
guy's
you
having a
have
seizure.
less-
See his leg? What the
Are your
fuck?
human rights less as a 1-year-old than your human rights as a 20-year-old? Where does that
Your
distinction
human rights
matter when
are
it comes
less
to
as a
rights?
1-year-old, yes. But in
Your
terms of like
human
right to
rights.
be killed,
Wait. Human rights are universal and inalienable. They're for everyone. We're not talking about rights when you turn 18 to vote. We're talking about your universal inalienable rights. The idea of a human right is we all share them, and they can't be taken away because we're human.
okay,
Maybe we
but
should
Oh,
have defined that at
recognize
the
that there's a
beginning.
fundamentally
Bitch.
different set of like rights for children than there are for
Well, I
adults.
think-
I know, if you want to
Alright,
talk about like
I
right
need
to not
to
be
find
killed, that's
teammate
why
or
you're
something.
clarifying. That's
I'm
like
scared.
right
I
to
need
not be
a- I
killed.
need an
Yeah, I
adult.
think
It's a
you have that
human
right to
right,
not be
no?
killed. Yeah, that is a
Human
human
right.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just to clarify,
I need an adult.
the amount of how much of a person you
Son
are,
of a bitch.
like
Come
you
on, guys.
said,
We got
does
this.
not
Easy.
change
Easy
your
game.
human
Come on.
rights, because my human rights as a 1-year-old, even though I'm less of a person because I'm less conscious than a 20-year-old, I still share the same human rights. No.
Power
If you want to,
items
yeah.
now
Okay.
available.
Okay.
So why would you deprive a
Oh, did I stinky? Did I do
Before
bad? I did.
developing
I
an
did so good.
uncertain amount of consciousness that's still very limited compared to even the consciousness of a newborn.
Dude,
Why
I
would you
just
deprive
heard
them the
someone
right
get
to
beat the
life?
fuck up up here. Oh god.
Because they haven't developed that
But that's a
true
circular
experience.
argument.
You
You
ain't
just went back to this.
Absolutely not
You went back to
circular.
the
Hold
same.
on, I'm so
When
sorry.
did the
Wait,
fetus
to be
become a
clear,
person?
you're trying to say that, let's say that
Oh.
You're saying
I seen the
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
rocket.
whoa.
I
You're
didn't
saying
think it
let's say
would
a
hit
person
me.
is 50% a person
It
at
looked like it
1
was
100% a person
more
at 5 years
downward.
old.
Fuck.
And let's say you're saying that a second trimester baby is 20% a
Enemy
person.
halfway to
Well,
victory.
what about somebody that's 0% a person? Why would you say that's
Your
not a person?
mother's halfway
It's
to
very clear,
Well,
very
victory.
easy, very obvious.
But
yeah.
you're not. But you're basing that off of development.
Yeah, the developing of a conscious experience.
So-
Just like
so-
death is based off the development of the lack
so,
of a conscious
So that's
Alright,
age
whatever.
discrimination. It's maturity discrimination.
call it discrimination. You can call it what you want. You're trying to like dress it up to intuition.
Well, you're using intuition for your argument.
Hold on, no. When I say your intuition pumping,
scary shit, bro.
I'm trying to draw all of the negative things, age discrimination. You're not addressing the fundamental point I'm making, which is that the conscious
Dude,
experience
I
is-
hate the
and I'll go back
grenades
to
in
my
this
one question
fucking
is,
game.
when
They
can we
are like
decide
so
to pull the
light
plug
and
on
they just
somebody who's in the
fucking.
hospital? What is the defining
whatever.
factor for okay?
Tell me
we
more
can pull
about
the
this
plug.
person in the hospital.
Sure,
because-
they're in a coma. They're in a hospital. They're in a
Okay,
bed.
are they on life support?
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess, and they're not medically induced coma.
Correct.
Okay, so I would want to better understand, or did they just have a car accident?
Talk to me. Yeah, they had a car accident.
Okay, and are they brain dead?
They might be. Should we talk about? I think that's important.
That's very important.
Okay. When you say
So-
brain dead, what do you mean by brain dead?
I mean, they can't detect.
Oh,
any brain
whoa!
waves.
They're 10 ahead of us.
Are they
Holy
flatlining? Is
shit!
there-
What
is there
the
any
fuck
heart?
happened?
So, are we gonna go by detection of brainwaves? Is what we choose as the
Because
end of life?
what you're getting to, it is ethical, I believe,
Okay.
to remove life support
Power
when
items
there's no more
inbound.
hope
Alright,
for the
I'm
person.
good
Do you
about
think it's
not
ethical
that
to,
good. I need to get
dismember
closer.
the person when you remove the life support?
I mean, like,
Would
I
you do
guess that's
anything
a
wrong
weird-
if you like said,
I
I'm a
think that
sadistic
people
person who
have,
wants
I
to
think
dismember
that
people?
people have.
The
got the
difference though
bed.
is life
Just,
support
just,
is an
just let them answer.
but-
Let them answer the question, and
Okay,
then,
okay.
and then we'll
There's
have you
such
go.
it's not a proper analogy is the
It's
problem.
such
but
a good analogy because
You
what
enjoy
you're
it, I
getting
know,
at-
but it's not a proper.
Ooh!
It's important.
I
You're
stole this
asking
kill. My bad,
The
dude.
very human questions I would expect you to ask, which are the questions everybody asks, is there brain activity?
Well, they're the ethical questions to ask when you're
Is
a
there-
medical professional making a decision whether or not to use
Yeah,
life
and we
support.
don't
Death
go
from
by-
above, bruh.
We don't go by response to external stimuli.
Oh no!
We don't go by
Those are often, yes, those are evaluated
They're-
when you're determining making life and death decisions in a hospital.
brain
Are-
death is usually what we're looking at. I
Yes,
think.
that is
That
absolutely
is the
considered as well.
defining aspect of
I
being considered somebody
understand.
dead.
So hold on,
I'm
can I just say
not going
ask one question
positive.
then?
I'm 7 and
You
8.
if you are making an
Enemy team
equivalent
nearing
between a person on
About
life
to change that though. About to.
child
Easy.
in the womb,
What a
as if the
reliable
child in the womb is on some form of life support. That is
Yeah, you
not.
thought.
That is
You
not
wish.
correct.
You
though.
thought you had me. You
That's
wish
not
you
correct
had me.
because when I'm a child in the womb, you when you're a child in the womb, you're not on an extraordinary
stuff.
medical
The fuck was
measure to
that?
support to keep you alive.
Shit.
You're in
Okay,
your
let's say they're
natural
not- let's say
habitat
that
where we
they're-
all
Yeah,
start
because
our
wait,
life.
look, can I get into this?
And the
Can I
only
get into this
let me just say
conversation?
one last thing, and I'd love to get into. And the only thing that's going to kill you when you're in the womb, if not a miscarriage, would be an abortion.
You may
So it's
No!
you still haven't answered the question about the 21
Bro, I'm
week
about
and
to
6-day-old.
fucking fight someone IRL.
Yeah, they would be past my 20-week cutoff, so
it's-
they'd probably be treated like a child.
Probably. It's a,
Yeah, assuming that's the
how?
law.
I can't
they
believe
would
how
be treated
much we
like a
fell
child.
off.
So
Like,
you're
holy
saying
shit.
that the law is 20 weeks, and that is exactly where you're at.
Yes.
Does no one know that that ghost
What about
exists?
the child
Like,
who's 18
never mind, they
weeks
got
in
him.
the womb,
I'm
who has
bugging.
spina bifida, and the
Gone.
doctor's
My bad,
giving
fam.
anesthetic to
Ejected
correct spina bifida
into
and put
the
the
atmosphere.
child back in the
Power
womb.
items
Oh, in the womb
onward.
if the parents want to. That's their choice.
But,
It's a medical
here's,
procedure.
this is my question before
Okay.
you made your farting noise. Does that child at 18 weeks, or the fetus, or
Mhm.
the thing that you
Power
want to call
items have
it,
arrived.
does that child have any rights
No.
at all?
Nope.
But see, what's interesting is
Oh,
you're
shit.
conflating parts with wholes.
Nope,
because-
I'm not.
No, yeah, you were, because you keep saying that earlier, and we can rewind the tapes, or whatever,
Okay.
that the child doesn't
Where's the last
have
kill?
the
Nice,
capacity
Potter's
for
awesome.
consciousness. But the child actually does have the capacity to have consciousness. At the moment of conception,
No.
Oh, like
all,
the.
no, excuse me. At the
Whatever.
moment of conception, I told you I'm gonna start treating you like a child.
Okay.
At the moment of conception, all of the parts are there, right? The genetic
No.
code is there.
That's not the parts. A blueprint is not a part.
Wait, can we
What?
pause
Okay,
here?
so wait, let me finish my
I'm a child.
let me finish my question.
Yes, ma'am.
So what part gets added in the womb
Uh-huh.
at between 0
let's see.
days
There's
and
the
20
brain,
weeks?
there's
No, no,
the
no.
heart,
Excuse
there's
me.
the
Where does that part come from, Destiny?
From the
Does-
blueprints. Do you think blueprints to a car are the same thing as a car?
You just said it doesn't matter. I said the child
A
in the
blueprint
womb
isn't going to magically become a
has-
car.
Well, but a one
that's
cell
not-
thing
it's-
is not a
it's
thing
not
with many
equivalent.
cells.
You,
It's not
you,
equivalent,
excuse me.
Destiny.
You're acting as if.
Wait,
Can you sit
Destiny.
up? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
can you-
I'm done. Alright, yeah. No one's watching the stream. I'm just gonna